Hello and welcome to this Town Talk special. I'm your host Stephen Downs, and as ever, I've got my trusty right hand man here. He's happy as ever. It's Mr. Kane Hall. How are you doing, Kane?
Yeah, good evening, mate. Yeah, very well, thank you. Been nice to have a Sunday off. Actually, I had a couple of games of rugby this weekend, Friday night and Saturday evening slash afternoon. So yeah, it's been a good one. No football though, which is boring. I hate it when there's no football on. It really is such a boring weekend, isn't it, when it's international break? Really is dull.
Yeah, there was England, but it was boring. Like you say, I mean, I watched the England game. It was terrible.
I was
Southgate
at I was at Bradford
2.0.
Bulls versus Barrow Raiders on Friday night, so I didn't get to see any of the England game. I just saw
Right.
a very, very poor Bradford Bulls and an outstanding Barrow Raiders. Had a great game plan. I really enjoyed that one from Barrow, and I was at the Leeds Rhinos Wigan game yesterday, which Rhinos were absolutely superb in their
Nice.
victory as well. But yeah, no, it's for me when there's no football, most of the time there's a bit of rugby on, so it's all right.
We love rugby league chat on this channel, and we might mention a certain rugby league club later on in the so-called agenda that we have for every show. But for now, we will look back on Town's 5-1 victory, absolute dominance against Crawley a week or so ago. Later in the show, we have got Sue Gallup from Charlton Live. Sue's been on the show before. Absolutely fantastic to have her on once again to talk all things Charlton. And preview that game coming up, a very, very tough test against the Addicts. But at the moment, we will talk for the moment against Crawley. Please do get your comments in, like and share the video, especially if you're from down under. We hope that our Australian friends are watching. But yeah, even if you're not from the Southern Hemisphere, please do get your comments in. Me and Kane will react. Zach Wood is hoping to be joining us a little later on. He's just a bit late from a birthday bash, so hopefully he can join us later. But for now, Kane, looking back on a superb victory against Crawley, Jonathan Worthington's first game in charge, I think we all expected a victory against what is a very poor Crawley side, let's be absolutely honest. Since then, Rob Elliott has lost his position at the club very harshly, really, looking at the circumstances of what he went into at Crawley. But I do feel, mate, me and you could have probably played against Crawley and won.
Let's not be too harsh on Crawley here. Come on, Steve.
No, I genuinely believe that.
It was an absolutely superb victory for Huddersfield Town, and it was much needed. And for me, one of the best things about it was the change of shape, the change of formation. How long have I been going on about that? And for Town to finally, or someone finally, put Town into a 4-3-3/4-2-3-1 was just, it was a breath of fresh air. It was music to my ears, Steve. And they just looked so much better. They looked so much better in every aspect of the game. What I've been saying over the last months under Michael Duff is, in his formation, you do not cover the pitch properly. You do not cover it every single area. You've got to break down the pitch into thirds, lengthways, and then you've got to break it down into fifths across the field as well.
Yeah.
In Michael Duff's formation, that didn't happen. You're expecting your two central strikers to cover the final third and all five of the whips along the field. Whereas you put it into a 4-3-3, then front three have to cover the final third, and two at most of the fifths or the widths. And that allows you to put the press on like Town did. The fact that Town scored 3 goals in under 20 minutes does not surprise me. Yes, Crawley are poor, and yeah, okay, the gaffer's now lost his job after not doing a great deal with them, but look at the two clubs. Huddersfield Town were in the Premier League a few years ago. They've got an American owner who's spending his money on the academy, on players. Crawley don't have that. They do not have that. It is completely different. And that was a result that everyone was expecting and should have expected, regardless who was in charge. I do think if Michael Duff would have been in charge for that one, it might have been a little bit harder for Huddersfield Town. But because of the freshen up from Jonathan Worthington, changing the formation, giving them a bit of freedom. Steve, I said to you, didn't I, before the game? I saw you when I was just before I went on air.
Yeah.
That I felt as if Marsh will be out on one wing and Ruskin is going to have to play as a winger. And that's exactly what he did. And okay, it's not Ruskin's familiar position. He can do it because he's got the quality to attack, and he's got great ability about him. But it shows to me that Michael Duff was so stubborn about changing the way he plays and sticking with what he's got, and that's what took him out of the job, because Worthington's come in, he's changed the formation, he's played a couple of players out of position to fit what's right for the team. Marshall, I prefer Marshall through the middle, but he's not going to get in over Joe Taylor, and he did a good job out wide. Still got his goal, assists involved, but he's better through the middle. But he did what he needed to do. Ruskin is a left back, but did a fantastic job out wide. And this is what we're going to see now from Huddersfield Town for the rest of the season: is good pressing football in a good formation, great shape, and players working hard for each other. I don't feel like we got that for a long time.
In terms of before the game, I do want to just point out that when I did see you and we were initially talking about the lineup, you went, "Oh my God, he's gone 5-3-2 again." You did say that, to be fair to you, didn't you?
I said, I hope he's not gone for that with the players that was picked. But I did quickly say, if he's doing what I think he would do, it'd be in the 4-3-3 with Ruskin and Marshall out wide.
And it worked a treat with Ruskin out there. I thought personally he was the man of the match for me. I thought he had an absolute stellar game, taking people on. To me, it shows that he's not just a typical, full-back, wing-back. He can play higher up the pitch. He's got the skill set, I think, to do that. And a bit of skill about him as well. Puts a really good cross in. How many good corners did he take as well? How long is it since we've had a good, set piece taker, really?
He's a fantastic player. He's got a lot of quality about him. And, there were teams in the Championship that wanted to get him. But luckily for Town, they were the team that managed to do so. Yeah, he's got a good corner on him. I think Evans does have a good corner on him at times as well. But obviously he's been injured for quite a fair bit of the season. But Ruskin himself, he's a player that if he takes that step up into the Championship, you're still going to see a same quality player. You mentioned his skill, his ability to get round a man, his ability to take a player on and then keep going, despite the fact that his knee has been heavily strapped up since he came back from his injury and his suspension. He's just a very, very, very good player. He's got so much ability. I feel like he can do a bit on his right foot as well. He is predominantly left-footed, and there's always something about a left-footed player with quality. There's just something different about them. And he has got the ability to take Town to the next level on the left-hand side of the field.
And he's got a positive attitude. That's what I like. Very rarely you saw him, coming back with the ball. He always wanted, like you say, to take his man on and make a bit of a difference in that final third, which was good. Getting to the byline rather than cutting in and trying a chip cross or a bit of a shot, like some of the other players in the squad do. He got to the byline and put crosses in. I thought that was great.
I also think that's a bit of the way Town were playing as well, Steve, because as I mentioned with the formation, but everything else changed about Huddersfield Town. There was a go forward. When Ruskin played under Michael Duff, he was a bit more passive with the ball. It was going backwards. It was going sideways. As a wing back, you have no support behind you if you lose the ball when you're taking a man on. So you can't take them kind of risks. As a left winger, you can because you've got someone behind you. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to win that ball. Lose the ball further up the field because that's where you're trying to take someone on in that final third. So you allow yourself to be able to do that. Under Michael Duff, you can't. You couldn't do that. And that's the big difference. So it's okay saying, yes, he was a lot more positive and he did this and he did that. But the whole squad did, the whole team did. It was completely different to what we've been seeing all season. And it's exactly what Town needed.
Thanks very much for those getting in touch. Mark Harrison says that promising partnership between Taylor and Marshall is developing, he thinks. And Stephen Holroyd says that we would not have won that 5-1 if Duff would have been at the helm. No, I don't think we would have. I genuinely think that it probably would have been a nervy 1 or 2-0 win. I think we would have won the game just because of the lack of quality. Look, I mean, I know that you've said I've not been harsh on Crawley, but I have to say the most comical thing I've seen at the John Smith Stadium, apart from Towns defending last season, was when the Crawley man absolutely bashed it against the other Crawley man's head, and it went out for a corner. I had to say I did have a chuckle at that in the game. But you talk about that partnership between Marshall and Taylor. You know, one thing that was really nice to see was Taylor getting a home goal. Listen, we haven't scored at home since the beginning of 2025. Well, we got 5 now. They come along like buses. But it was particularly nice to see Taylor get off to a start, in front of the home crowd, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, it was a tap in, but you've still got to put that ball in the back of the net, and that's not always an easy task, regardless if you're a striker that's coming on a free. Maybe it costs 750 grand, maybe it costs 3 million, maybe it costs more. You've got to pull that ball in the back of the net. It's always hard. Now, I just want to touch on what Mark said here about a promising partnership between Taylor and Marshall. I don't look at it as a partnership between them two. Because if you look at it as a partnership between them two, that you're looking at that as a front two. Taylor, or whoever it is, will be playing through the middle. So that middle person has to have a partnership with whoever's out wide right, out wide left, and also the 2 midfielders who are bombing on. So it's about having the options for each other and creating the partnership. Mike, you're absolutely right. They'll look as if they enjoy playing with each other, but it's pivotal that person in the middle of that front three has a partnership with every single person around him, because if he doesn't, the ball ain't going to go in the back of the net. You're going to not make them same runs. I think luckily for Marshall, with him playing a central position for the most of the year and having an understanding of that, when he gets pushed out wider, which personally I don't feel like is his more natural position, he knows what that central striker should do. So they play well together because he already knows what Joe Taylor should be doing. So once he gets the ball, he's able to deliver it where Taylor's going to be because he knows where he needs to be. I know it's interesting because obviously, Mike, you've said the Taylor and Marshall, but you've not said Taylor and Ruskin. It's because Ruskin doesn't play through the middle, so he's not expecting them same kind of runs that Taylor might make. But for me, it's important that that person in the middle has the connection with whoever's wide either side of him and them 2 midfielders. But it was absolutely superb from, again, pretty much everybody. There wasn't really a bad player out there for Town against Crawley. And I've already said it, what Stephen said, no, Town wouldn't have won 5-1 if Duff were in charge.
No, I think everybody played really well. The only sort of minus point was the goal at the end, sloppy, giving the ball away. And I thought, maybe sometimes Ruffles made a few bad passes, but other than that, I thought it was a great display. One thing I do want to touch on, which a number of people did notice on social media, was your main man, Matty Pearson, got on the score sheet, and when he went to go celebrate Kane, he put his hand in the air. Obviously, there was a point earlier in the season, and I think it probably came through a mixture of frustration about the team were playing in a certain way, and that wasn't probably getting the best out of the team, and also the fact that he'd not been playing in the side when probably he was fit. Obviously, he came back into the team, a bit of a miracle from what we got told, sort of at the weekend. But he put his hand in the air as a bit of an apologetic towards the fans. I mean, that's always nice to see when, maybe a player did make a mistake. He shouldn't have shussed the crowd when he did. But I think that's more down to passion. But I think it's important we touch on and actually, respect a player that probably does know he made an error back then and wants to apologise to the fans for it. Because overall, we all know Matty's a Yorkshire lad, a proper guy and one that puts every bit of effort in.
Yeah, I think that's what's really important about local players. I know he's from Keighley, so he's probably grown up being a Bradford City fan. But I think Yorkshire players understand what it's like to play football for a Yorkshire club, and that's massive. And yeah, I felt as if it was a little bit of an apology as well. It's a mistake, or is it a mistake? Because he, as you say, he's passionate about playing, he's passionate about the club, and then he was getting frustrated. But I do think a lot of the times the booing and the jeers haven't always been aimed at the players, because the players are only doing what they're being told to do. And again, you look at the game they played against Bristol City and then the game they played against Crawley, two different instructions, two completely different instructions for team tactics. So tell me it's down to the players. It's not. It's just absolutely not. And he was coming back fit from what Jonathan Worthington said in the press conference afterwards. Was he was about 3 weeks away, and John asked him if he could do a job, and he put his hand up and said, "Yeah, I'll have a go." And I believe them two played together at Halifax Town when Pearson was coming through, and when Worthington was the back end of his career. So it's a kind of a bit of an old teammate as well, and I think it were a good time for him to come back in. He needed to, and he also was allowed the time to now recover for 2 weeks after that game, and deserved goal for him. You know, I've said it all beginning of the season when he wasn't playing that he would pop up and score goals when he needed to when he came into the team, which he did. And you know, it doesn't surprise me that he came back last week and scored straight away. You know, he's a great player to have around. He can do the right back role, he can do the centre half role, he can get a goal for you, and he'll bring you plenty of passion. And yeah, I feel as if that was him saying, "Look, sorry about that. I get your frustrations. I've scored a goal. I'm here for you.
Yeah,
let's crack on and get ourselves into the playoffs."
Yeah, I just thought that was really big of him, and you know, we've seen other players have different reactions throughout the club over the last 5 seasons, and you know, I think that put a bit of respect back on Matty's name, really. So I thought that was really good because you know, he's like you said, local lad, and one that we want to do well for the football club. Like we all want every player to do well, but I think it means more when a local lad, you know, or somebody like Hoggy who's been at the club for God knows how many years. You know what I mean? Sorry, go on.
No, I'm just saying, yeah, 100%. Totally agree.
Yeah. Ian makes a good comment here. So he noticed that the midfielders were cutting inside more rather than going out wide. This gave Ruskin's ability to go further up the pitch when attacking. Probably goes into what you kind of was saying, Kane, and I think that was a good observation by Ian. You know, I thought the midfield was far better set, to be honest, and had a better involvement. Second half, I think we sort of, you know, relaxed a bit, but I just think that's because we were 4-0 up by the time 29th minute ticked over. So, you know, the second half was always going to be a bit of a less of an intensive game. And Jed comes in, our lad from Oz. Jed, enjoying your cornflakes over there, mate. Morning, boys. The shackles seem to be off last week. It didn't look like a game of chess. And I mean, I do like chess, but yeah, it didn't. So yeah, overall, kid, very happy with a 5-1 win. I think that's what we have to say. A good start for Worthy.
Yeah, great start. Just want to touch on what Ian and Jed have said. In terms of the midfielders cutting inside more, it's because you aren't going to score from outside the area on the right-hand side or the left-hand side of it. You've got to get players in the box. I mentioned this a few weeks ago about when Town are on the attack, that who they're aiming for is 2 players, where it's different with Worthington in charge because your winger on your far side will come into the box, your strikers in the box, your 2 midfielders are in there. That means your defensive midfielder can just sit on the edge. You'll push up your other wing back. Your other winger's either coming in short to try and get it, or he's in the box as well, and your fullback putting it in. There's so many different options with this kind of formation that Jonathan Worthington wants to play. Excuse me, apologies. And because they cover for each other, because you've got that space to cover, you're using that space to the best of your ability, you allow the players to cut inside more, to get into the area, because it's all right sending a wing back further up the field and then your central midfielder for some reason is run all the way out there as well, which that's what they used to do. You're taking away from the danger zone. The danger zone is the penalty area. Get the ball in there, get players in there, you're going to get something out of it. And that's what we've seen from there. And in terms of what Jed's saying and the shackles being released, and 100%, because it was... Players enjoy playing good football. Players enjoy winning the ball up high end of the pitch and scoring goals. You win that ball up the high end of the pitch, you've got put more chance of you putting that ball in the back of the net because the other team can't react. Playing slow with a poor tempo, in a poor formation. No one enjoys it. That you say, they had that bounce, and I think people will see now, especially after another couple of weeks under John Wormington in training, we're going to see more of it, and players are going to understand what's going on, and they're going to enjoy it. Whenever I've coached football, played football, I don't want it to be slow and boring. What's the point in being there? You want to go up and win that ball, be fast, have your fast players taking on players, have your skillful players doing a bit of skill, and we saw every part of that. It was just, for me, it was very, very simple. Football is made complicated. I felt as if Duff made it too complicated for everybody out there. Worthington's come in, simplified it. Go and do your bit. You're all professional footballers. You're all good enough. Go and win the game. It's exactly what they did.
And that is exactly what they did. Obviously, this weekend, as Kane said right at the beginning of the podcast, there's been no football match for Town this weekend. We've had an international break. Our 3 Northern Ireland lads and Josh Caroman's gone off to play for their nations. And so, we've had no game this weekend. Our other rivals have had games. Wrexham and Stockport played against each other in what seemed like a very intense game. And at the top of the table, Wrexham won that 1-0. Charlton lost to our bitter, disgusting rivals in Peterborough United, 3-0. But, to be fair to Peterborough, thanks very much for doing us a favour. And now we're going to speak to Sue Gallup from the Charlton Live. It's always great to have Sue on the show, so let's bring her in. Hey up, Sue, how are we going?
I'm all right.
Oh, you sound as depressed as what Kane did under Michael Duff.
No, to be fair, we did our pod this morning, and on the whole, we're still pretty positive because it's been our first loss in 6 or 7 games. So we're not too disheartened. We knew, historically, we don't do well at Peterborough anyway, so it was going to be a tough game, and I think they're on a bit of a roll at the minute. So we're not too disheartened. It's disappointing, especially because I think the scoreline as well is we very rarely concede that amount of goals. We've been really good with our clean sheets this season. So I think, it was just a very odd game, and we had 25 shots. And we didn't score one of them. It was nuts.
I watched the highlights this morning, and I couldn't believe that you've been beaten 3-0, to be honest. I mean, the goals that Peterborough scored, probably from your guys' perspective, I would have thought probably could have been defended better, particularly the third one. But I suppose you're going to have, it's League One football. You're always going to have these games, and Town have had their fair share this season where you would hope to get a victory against, Peterborough being on a roll, but they are down there, and it's probably a game that you would have thought you'd have had a good chance of getting 3 points.
Yeah, I think when we did our sort of, not predictions as such, a little while ago on our pod about what games we felt we really should win, what ones we would sort of be happily take a point, and what ones were going to be more tricky. And I think Peterborough was one of them ones that we felt at the time we should win. But again, it never kind of happens that way. And again, we was talking this morning about, had we got a little bit complacent, we looked a little bit leggy, we weren't pressing as effectively as we usually do. Like when Peterborough had the ball, we weren't really attacking it as much as we normally do. Because our defence has been so solid this season. But we just weren't doing some of those things as we normally would. And that, again, like we were saying, give credit to them. They've got a decent side. They've got decent players. I think they're probably in a bit of a false position in terms of where we thought they might be at the beginning of the season. But they've said that they've started on this run sort of 7 games ago, and they've just been doing really well. And that's our first loss for a while. So
you've obviously been on your bit of a roller coaster yourselves this season. When we played each other back in was it November or October? Can't quite remember. But you guys weren't having the best of times. To be fair, under Nathan Jones. But ever since that fixture, you've really risen up the table, and you kind of, you're one of the best teams in the division now in terms of statistics, being really solid, like you say, at the back. I mean, it has been a real bit of a rise, hasn't it, this sort of second half of the season for you?
Yeah, I think, like you say, around sort of October, November time, we were like really disheartened, and we were like, it's going to be another mid-table finish. I mean, I know I spoke to you guys at the beginning of the season. I was full of hope, and we're going to get at least in the playoffs, if not automatic. And you laughed at me.
I didn't laugh at you.
And then yeah, we had a couple of really awful games, and I think for whatever reason the tide just turned, and we've just been on this fantastic run. I think it's like something like 13 games, 13 or 14 games with only 2 losses, which, I mean, we only kept, I think, 5 clean sheets last season.
Yeah.
So it's been a massive turnaround, and the fan base, I mean, we took just under 3,000 to Peterborough yesterday. And we've already sold out our allocations, not our next 2, because Mansfield away is on a Tuesday night, but I know we've sold out our Wickham and Cambridge allocations. And then we've got our last away game of the season is Wrexham away.
That's a biggie, that, isn't it?
So we're looking, that could be the deciding game, I think, like, to whether, because we still, even like last week, we were still like, we could still technically get second. I think yesterday put a little bit of a dent in that, but we've still got that hope. But yeah, and then again, this run, it's just, I mean, again, you sort of going back to October, November time, and some of the fans were calling for Nathan's head, sort of thing, and it was like, just be patient. He's rebuilding something really special now, and I think we're really seeing the fruits of that now.
Yeah, it seems like the fan base is really collectively behind Nathan, and you probably haven't had a manager like that for quite a while, have you? I mean, as much as what town fans don't really like him, he's a little angry man for most of us, but it's nice to see that the Charlton fans are really getting behind a manager that they can collectively all believe in.
Yeah, I think again, and I think I probably touched on this when I spoke to you boys last time, is we've always done better under a manager that's had some sort of Charlton connection with us in the past, because they get the club, they get how we work, they get the fan base. And Nathan obviously was our development coach when he first started going into management. He was our under-23s development coach, and he won the league in that first season, and then ended up going to be assistant manager at Brighton. So he knew what we was about, and that was the season that Chris Powell got us promoted into the Championship. Yeah. So I think he knew what he was coming in for, and I think he knew the fan base. He knew how he would want to build something special, like he did at Luton, from taking them from like the lower echelons up to sort of challenging for promotion in both like League One and the Championship. He knows how to build not only a good squad but a good club. So even with the staff that he's got around him and the team that he's building around him, it's what he said, it's basically from top to bottom, like we're in it together. And he's got that real sort of passion and belief that we love. Everyone loves a passionate manager. You call him angry, we call him passionate.
We only call him angry because of what he said about us before. But there you go. And he has got a connection to Huddersfield. So, he's definitely an interesting guy. Another interesting guy that we want to bring in right now. He's made it back in time from his birthday bash that he was at. He's Mr. Zach Wood. How are we doing, Zach?
Yeah, good to you, Steve.
Yeah, not bad. Everybody, Zach, he's made it from around the world. His usual travel. It's good to have you back on the show, mate. I know that.
No, good to be here, mate. Good to listen to Sue as well. I mean, I think she gave a good account of Charlton there and where they're at as a club. And I think, as we're kind of feeling a little bit negative, it's nice to hear there's a fan base out there seeing a lot of positives at the moment, because certainly not transpiring on this podcast.
No, certainly not. But it's good to have you, mate, and I'm sure we'll dig into to everything, your thoughts as well. I mean, from your point of view, Kane, Charlton are going to be a very, very tough test out there next weekend.
Yeah, there'll be a tough test, but so will Town. But Town aren't no pushovers anymore. I generally do think that any team that comes up against Huddersfield for the rest of the season are going to struggle. It's not going to be easy regardless the home or away. As I always say, pitch is the same for everybody. It doesn't really matter if you're in your home stadium or your away stadium. Yeah, Charlton are decent. We know that. Playoff spots, Nathan Jones, great coach, especially at this level. But I do feel as if Town have got superior players, a superior system at the moment, and they've had a chance to, put everything right over the last couple of weeks that they needed to work on. No, don't get me wrong, Town can still get broken down. They are by far going to be the best team in the league now. I'm not saying that, but they're going to be a lot better than what they are. And what you're going to find now is Charlton and any other club that's coming against Huddersfield, all the videos that they've had of them over the last 2 or 3, 4 weeks, throw them in bin, because you don't know what you're going to get. You've got one game to go off, which is against Crawley. And as Steve says, he reckons he could play in that Town team and beat Crawley. So you can't take anything from it.
Zachary, I can tell.
It's going to be hard for Charlton, especially this week, and anybody else coming up against Town to get 3 points, regardless for Charlton at home. And I do think Huddersfield have got too much for anybody that they come up against now.
Zach, obviously, since last time we had you on, Duff's gone. There's been
a while ago.
Yeah, a while ago, but we've there's been a bit of change at the football club. I mean, where's kind of your head at from what's happened over the last couple of weeks and going into what is like I said a difficult game against a good Charlton team?
Yeah, I think obviously some of what Kane said there I kind of echo. I think naturally we're a team that's going through change at the moment, but I think any change was good, because the trajectory the club was on as a whole was one that we needed to change fast. I think Charlton as a club, as mentioned in short introduction there, they're on the up, aren't they? And you've got players like Tyrese Campbell in the squad, and there were match winners in that squad. And the form, bar Peterborough at the weekend, the form kind of echoes as a club where Charlton are. And any team that is managed by Nathan Jones, whether we like him or we don't, it's going to be a tough game. They're always at the races, they never get pummeled. Obviously Peterborough being an exception, but they're not going to get turned over really heavily on a regular basis. Town, I mean, we just do not know what team's going to turn up. Like we don't, do we? We're Jekyll and Hyde as a club at the minute, on the pitch and off the pitch, unfortunately. But I genuinely have no idea how this game's going to go, and that sounds ridiculous because we're on this podcast to give opinions. But at the moment, like, we beat Crawley 5-1, but what does that mean? I mean, it's without disrespecting Crawley, it's not. At the end of the season, we're not going to look back and say that game got us the playoffs or that game didn't get us the playoffs. It's games like Charlton and Stockport and Lincoln between now and the end of the season, which are really going to sort of, show where we are as a club and if we actually are genuinely serious about going up.
So were you a bit surprised that we parted with Michael Duff and we've put basically our academy manager in charge? Was that something from an outside point of view that you were a bit surprised with?
I'm in two minds with that one. I think you needed to make a change because for whatever reason it just wasn't working. But he is a really experienced manager, and I think we were quite shocked at the fact that like you were still sort of competing for playoffs under him. But I do feel like the actual appointment was more of a shock to us from an outsiders, because although you've got to be a good sort of coach manager to be in charge of the academy, there's a big jump from academy football to first team men's football. And I guess we were all a bit sort of, wow, that's a bit out of left field. But if it works, it works. It's like, we're pleased for you, apart from next Saturday. We're pleased for you if it works out. But yeah, I think, shocked and not shocked in terms of Michael Duff, but definitely shocked in terms of your new guy.
Just tell us a bit about how you think Charlton will set up, against Town, Sue.
That's a difficult one at the minute, because we, on the whole, probably since sort of, I would say, December time, we've had pretty much the same starting 11. But we've got a few injuries at the moment. You'll probably be pleased to know.
Don't worry, we've got a few of them, Sue. Don't worry.
Josh Edwards and Miles Lieberm, which are quite big losses for us. So I think that was maybe part of the issue, not having Josh in yesterday. So Tanai Watson came in for him, and Tanai's not played a lot of football this season. He'd been out injured for quite a long time, so I don't think he's quite up to pace yet. I would imagine we would probably be with the same starting 11 as we did yesterday. So Tyrese and Matty Godden up front. The middle of Connor. I've got to remember everyone now.
Is it a 4-4-2 setup? Is that how he normally?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
We do mix it up a bit during the game sometimes if things are not really going as planned. We've got like players that were wingers that are now playing in more sort of forward roles. So like Tyrese was predominantly a winger, but now he's playing up front quite a bit with Matty. Yeah. We've got quite a lot of pace in Thierry Small and Kane Ramsey. Now he's back in down that side. So I think that's probably going to be where, if you keep them three quiet, I would say they're our three key players really. If you keep them three quiet, because they've got the pace and the skill to get forward and deliver them balls in for Matty. But I would say it's probably the same starting as yesterday.
And that's why I think it could be quite an open game, Steve, because you've got Ramsey and Small who obviously like to push on from wing backs for Charlton, and sometimes Town have been at the best when teams have come at us. We struggle to break sides down, to be honest with you, Sue. It's a bit music to our ears that I'm hearing that your fullbacks are going to push on, because we tend to play 5 at the back, although obviously with a change in management we'll probably go to a 4 now, which worked at Crawley. So hopefully our wingers can get a little bit higher and get in behind your fullbacks. But again, it's probably going to be we don't know what time we're going to turn up, but we certainly struggle when teams just sit in. So it's should make for a decent game.
I do think Town are going to. I think I know what team's going to turn up. It's going to be a 4-3-3, and it's going to be just in the faces. So the fact that the Charlton fullbacks like to get forward, it might be a bit of a struggle for them, because you're going to leave themselves open. They're going to leave themselves really open. And I think Town have got enough quality back there, which is what we saw at the weekend. They're covering for each other. They've also had another couple of weeks of working on what they need to do defensively. So it allows them 3 players in the attack to kind of stay up. And, it might go to that bit of a chess game, but it is going to be full pace. It's going to be full pace from Town. It's going to be high press. And, Zach, I know you're saying you're not too sure what kind of Town's going to turn up, but it's going to be a Town that you've not seen all year, and what nobody's seen all year, apart from what we saw last week, a glimpse of it, but perhaps more this week. And that's why I do think Town are going to be far too superior. Look, Charlton are a great side, no doubt about it. They're above Town, great run that they've been on, just as we've mentioned. But it's going to be a Town team that people haven't been expecting to see, apart from Worthington and his coaching staff know what they're going to get, which is full throttle football going forward.
I think he'll play the same team, Jack. I honestly do. I don't see why he would change it, do you?
No, I mean, look, if you're changing a team after you just won 5-1, I don't care who the opposition is, it would be a strange decision. But I get Kane's point, and I'm hearing, the 4 games that we had under him in the Championship were probably the best 4 games of the season. You think about Sheffield Wednesday, the 4-0, etc., etc. And it was a Town team that we recognise. But having said that, we're coming up against the quality side, and I'm not willing to put my neck on the line and say we're far superior, because I don't have the evidence to back that up. We're beating Crawley, right? That's the only evidence we have under the current regime. But we're Jekyll and Hyde, and it does not turn a losing team and a set of losers into a set of winners by changing one person.
Let's go around a round robin for some predictions going into the game. Kane, prediction and goal scorers.
Yeah, 2-1 to Town. Because I think Town has still got stuff to work on defensively, and obviously plays out injured. But I do think Town will score. I think Taylor will bag one, and I reckon Evans is ready to pop up with one.
Zach.
So I'm going to go 1-1, and I'm going to have a little bit of a curveball. I'm going to say Ruxin to score.
Cool. Sue.
Weirdly, Zach, I think I'm on the same wavelength. I think it's going to be a really, really hard-fought battle end to end. But yeah, I'm going with a 1-1. And our scorer will be Matty Godden.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be 2-1 to Town. I think Matty Godden will get one for Charlton. I would think Taylor's going to get one. And I actually think Ben Wiles will score, to be honest. Type of game for him to turn up in and get that caravan off his back, which he's been managing to do of late. But yeah. So we're going to go into a bit of more of a serious topic now. Some Town fans might have seen a recent announcement about season tickets. We're going to keep Sue on for a little while, just because I think we're going to make a comparison with Charlton. Obviously, kind of, it's interesting to see what other clubs are doing. So season tickets recently came out for next season. Last season, it didn't matter whether me, Zach, Cal, or not necessarily Kane, because he sits in press box, but you might still buy a season ticket for all we know. But it was £249 wherever you sat in the ground last season, and this season they've decided to make a different pricing structure for wherever you sit in the ground. So I've got a little graphic that I have nicked from another podcast, but we shall go with it. So here is the pricing structure that is currently being announced for Town season tickets for next season. So if we just have a look here, for instance, a good example would be the Riverside lower, and you look at the pricing there, you're going up from £249 to £419. That is a raise of 78% on season tickets. The highest price in structure is for the Riverside Upper. That's gone from £249 to £439 per adult. That's an 87% increase on season tickets. And even in something like, the Cowshed Loyal, that's, last season, as usual, was £249 per adult. That's gone up to £369 in the Cowshed Loyal. That's gone up 60%. And the worst sort of way to sit in the ground is the altogether Terrier stand on the upper part of it, because you obviously got over rain, hail, whatever weather condition you get up there. That is an increase to £339 of 49%. The only non-increase at this moment in time is if you sit in the Terriers Together lower tier, where the price is kept the same. Other increases come from obviously senior tickets, also every age bracket. So they've decided to go with an under 14s, under 18s, and under 21s ticket this time. I'll firstly come to you, Kane. Personally, I'll give my little segment on this, and then I'll come to you. I think it's, to be honest, absolutely disgraceful, the increase of season tickets to this much. I did the HDSA survey, and many of you may have seen it, where the majority of fans said that they would happily go to an increase of £350 to £300 to £350. But it's way above that. I mean, they've gone really overboard on the increases here. And I just don't think that they've got it right. They've not understood that Huddersfield is one of the most deprived towns in the country, one of the lowest wages around, the country in terms of what people earn. Everything else is going up, bills, from electricity, gas, obviously, to get into work and things like that. And this is just not something that they need to do right now. And I don't think that we've seen, what they've said. Nagel said was it a couple of months ago, about raising season ticket prices last year, that, we need to prove something on the pitch first. And we haven't seen that this season. And so I think that these increases, to be honest, are just way above what people can afford. And I honestly believe we'll see less than 10,000 season ticket holders next season, going from 16,000 this season. And I honestly believe that the club really need to relook at this. Fans have only got 5 weeks to determine whether they're going to renew. That's only one payday for most people. And then the season tickets that will go on general sale, and the price will go up again. Kane, your thoughts?
It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Look, I can get a point of an increase, especially when you're going out and buying Joe Taylor at $3 million, and the infrastructure that Kevin Nagel's trying to put in behind the scenes, hiring more people to do more jobs in terms of commercial marketing, what they're trying to do in the changing rooms, how they've done that, the H-Town, everything that they're trying to do, I get. And when it has to come from somewhere, it can't all just come from the chairman, the club. It's got to come from the club and the fans putting it in. But it's just silly. I could, if it had gone from 249 to 289 or 299, I'd have been like, all right, okay, fair enough. Trying to pay for a little bit more of what you're aiming to do, but after what fans have watched all year under Michael Duff, for it to go up like that. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I've got to be careful what I say. I'm very fortunate that what I do, I get into the games. But would I be paying that amount of money if, let's say, if I wanted to go to Kilnabank, £389 for League One football? I don't think so. I've got more important things to pay for, like food every week. I don't get where it's come from. And then the age gaps, under 14s, I think is good. It allows a lot more of the younger children to come through, so they've got loads of opportunity to come watch football. Under 18s, I understand that difference, but then to under 21s, what happened to the under 23s? Under 23s give the opportunity for a lot more students, people in apprentices and all that kind of stuff, the opportunity to keep going to watch their team at a cheaper rate until they get into the real world of being an adult and working full time and having to spend your money on not just going to football on a weekend, but your bills, your food, your car, your house, whatever. I do think it's been taken way out of proportion, And then there's a lot of talk in terms of football prices around the country. Spurs were looking to just do a one ticket price, Manchester United a one ticket price for whatever, but I don't feel like it's fair. I've got some of the comments coming in now. Ian says mine's at $349 in the couch, £20 off for being a senior citizen. Would not review if Duff was still here. Love Worthy, but that's the kind of thing he's got to think about. That Fiona Clark, for myself, my 3 children, it's a whopping £420 increase for us in the Riverside Lower next season. We have moved to family stand. Like it's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. That no, I'm not. Town a few years ago went and was the working class club, and that is because of what is around the area. People are working class, and I'm just shocked at the prices, to be honest with you, Steve. Really, I'm shocked.
Zach, I put in the group when the season tickets were announced. I was gobsmacked. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I know we can touch on a couple of the categories, but that is a big point that Kane makes as well about the kids. I mean, to go from £49 for an under 14 to £99. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, this is the future and blood life of the club. We're talking about.
Okay, mate. So I've got a lot to say on this topic, actually, as you can imagine. So
yeah,
right. I'm going to set the scene for Sue, right?
Let me just get my popcorn, Zach.
Okay, so we were a club that were the working class club. Okay, we've come to this new pricing structure. So I've done a little bit of basic maths, right? Because I believe in supply and demand. Okay, so this year so far, we've scored 5 goals at home. Okay, 5 goals, and they all came on Saturday. Based on the new pricing structure, okay, that would cost £26.60 a goal. Okay, £26.60 a goal. How is that value for money? We've got no manager. We're hanging on to the playoffs by a thread. We've sacked 5 managers in the last 20 months, costing a whopping £2 million. We've signed a crock of absolute garbage window after window. We've got Reece Healy, who's got a hamstring for a God knows what. He's absolute brittle, £2 million. Bojan, £2 million, loaned him out. Yeah. We got Dion Charles, 750k, can't get on the pitch, above an 18-year-old loanee from West Ham who's on 4k a week. And it's the fans that are now paying for terrible decisions made off the pitch. And the only person, okay, that is responsible for this is still in a job. Okay? Basic economics in any industry is supply and demand. You raise the prices when demand is high. Unfortunately, the demand is the lowest it's been for 11 years. So how is now the right time to increase prices by this amount? I can absolutely understand. Kane hit the nail on the head. 50 quid would have gone down absolutely fine. But what this is going to do is it's going to do 2 things. Attendances will drop, but also the future of the club, because you're now looking at under 14s who are going to go, well, I probably would have got to 5 or 6 games a year. I'll probably play football on a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, so I can't make every game. But it was worth it at the cost structure before. It's not now. And then you've got Bradford City down the road, right? And I very rarely compliment Bradford City, but you're going to get one here, right? Yesterday at Bradford City, they had 23k, right, down at Valley Parade.
Yeah.
Right? Tell me what's going to happen next year, because they'll get promoted next year, and I can tell you now their attendance will be double Huddersfield Town's. Fact.
Yeah. 100. I agree with that. 100%.
And I absolutely cannot understand why it's the fans that are paying for terrible decisions. And we get told all this corporate bollocks, right, about why prices have to be increased. They don't have to be increased, because I'm telling you now, right, the revenue will be lower than what it will be if they're stuck with the current prices, because we're probably going to lose 5-6k season ticket holders, right? And we're talking about how we want to increase Huddersfield Town getting match day revenue. Well, less pies, less beers, less merchandise, less revenue. Fact.
Exactly. Well, that's my entire point with this, right? Surely, there's going to be, like you said, there's going to be. I think there'll be less than 10,000 season ticket holders. I honestly think we'll be going back to the days when we were last in the league.
You'll be lucky, mate. Honestly, shut the cow shed, because it'd be pointless, because it'll be scarce in there. Honestly, we've just kicked out Huddersfield Giants for having low attendances. We'll be playing at the Shea before long.
We'll get on to that. We won't bore Sue with that particular topic. But you make a massive point, and that's my biggest point about this. Why would you go for a lump sum of paying for a season ticket at those prices, right? From a club's point of view, when you think, I tell you what, why don't we pack the stadium out like we did 5 years ago? When it were absolutely rocking, people were buying shirts. I mean, I bought 2 shirts that season when Wagner turned up. 2 shirts, pies, like I said, beer. And it's great, like you said. And we've been consistent on this podcast for saying when the club have got things right, particularly off the pitch, we've really gone out of us when we've praised them, and they deserve praise. But this, to me, seems like such a backward decision. It's punishing a fan base which realistically has had crap to deal with over the last 10 years.
£26.60 goals, Steve, that's punishment enough.
So I just want to bring in Sue here because I wanted to get Sue's comparison, right? Because lots of people have been saying on different forums and social media, well, it was always going to come at some point because Dean Hoyle subsidised the season tickets because he was a local lad and he wanted the club to do well and pack the fans in. But fans have made the other some fans have made the suggestion it wasn't in line with what other football clubs were doing, and prices would always increase. So we've had a look at Charlton's prices, and this is the graphic for Charlton's prices, and the top ticket is £650, I believe, Sue, in the purple areas that you can see on the graphic there. I mean, the distinction between Huddersfield and Charlton is very different, let's be honest. You know, one's in London, one's in the middle of Yorkshire. You know, wages are different, you know, sort of fan bases are different. But I'll be honest, Sue, we told you off air what the increase was for the season tickets, and yours have come down this season, and you were gobsmacked at our season ticket prices, the increase in percentage.
Yeah. I mean, when you said 85% in one of those areas, that is absolutely diabolical. I agree with everything you're saying. Your season ticket sales are really going to suffer with this. I mean, we do our phasing. So at the moment it's the early bird up until I think it's like the 3rd of May. So my season ticket last season was like $460. And this season, if I buy it like now, it's $435, I think. So mine's actually gone down slightly if I get it early. And we do tend to have quite a lot of people take us up on the early birds pricing, like the renewals. We don't tend to do the general sale until the summer, because they want to give lots, like the season ticket holders, lots of time to be able to renew. I don't know if you do this, but we also do payment plans. So
There is,
you
yeah.
can do it over like 6 months or 2
Great
months
point.
payment.
Let me get onto that after, Sue. Perfect reminder. Thank you.
So personally, I do that because I wouldn't be able to afford to buy my season ticket like straight off like that. But yeah, we're pretty lucky. We've got our chairman, Gavin Carter, is a natural Charlton fan. So although we've got a higher percentage of our ownership is American, they're very much guided now by Gavin. And so being realistic, if you put our prices up too much, and like I think was said earlier, it's League One football, it's not the Premier League. And we're still offering free season tickets to under 11s in our family stand. So I don't know that there's many clubs that do that. So if you've got a paying adult, the under 11 goes free. So
And that's that's in one stand, is it, Sue?
Yeah, that's just in the family stand, which is the northeast quadrant.
I mean, that, Zach, you know, and Kane is what a football club should be doing to get youngsters in and families in. Kane, I mean, I'll come back to you in a minute, Zach, because I know you want to talk about the payment plan. Kane, I mean, looking at those prices, some people will go, well, you know, Charlton season tickets, you know, 460 quid there for Sue. You know, our top one's only 439 quid. What's the problem? You know, they've got American owners, we've got American owners. You know, why should they be paying so much and we be paying so little? Destroy that argument for me, because I know that you're good at doing that.
The difference is it's a different place in the country, and it's a massive rise. You can't really compare them. Maybe it's been a bit of a luxury for town for ever so long, but no, I generally do believe if you lower the prices, you're going to get people to come in. You know, one of the reasons that Bradford got their record attendance yesterday, I believe the tickets were a £5 or a £10 for everybody. And does that not tell you everything that you need to know? That, okay, one game that it was, you put on a special deal, they get a record attendance, they're at nearly the top of the league. Yeah. Town are struggling in League One here to get into the playoffs or work. They've put the prices up and they're going to get less attendance. I've been involved in amateur clubs, I've been involved at semi-pro clubs. I have good conversations with people at pro clubs. It's so important to have your attendance, as Zach's already mentioned. So I don't want to go over it again, but having people in the stadium, buying beer, having merchandise, etc., that is where your money comes from, not just having a season ticket. If your season ticket is cheap at £249, you're more than likely going to go, what's that? You want a beer? Yeah. Do you want a hot dog? Yeah. Do you want a burger? Yeah, you might as well. Tell you what, I'll have another one as well, because we've barely paid out for his price. So when they do take over the stadium and everything becomes full profit to them, they're not going to have it because the fans aren't there as much. And then merchandise, Castor comes in. Does that mean the price of a shirt's going to go up because it's not?
Yes. Yeah, 100. I think it will.
Is it? Everything's just going to add up, and prices are going to go up and up and
You've
up.
got Castor coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good luck with them.
Yeah, and it's like,
thanks, Sue.
Yeah, everything's just going to go up from, yes, okay, it's been a luxury for town to have it £249, but you're going to lose out on what Zach said, and you're going to miss out on the attendance as well. I think the increase would have been acceptable at £50.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything more than that was way too much, and then what it has been is unacceptable.
Diabolical.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
You was talking about what Bradford did yesterday with their fivers. Do you not do anything like that? Because we regularly throughout the season will do football for a £5 or a kid for £1, and just to boost those attendances.
Yeah, I believe you're allowed three games a season across whatever in the league. I think that is the same for professional football or semi-professional football as well. You're allowed 3 fixtures where you're allowed to put a special deal on. And
we used to do it for schools, didn't we?
Yeah, they do that. Yeah. But Bradford have picked it at a very good time when they are challenging for the top of the league, and it's an international break. It was a perfect time to do it. And yeah, Huddersfield Town will do that throughout the season, but having Bradford do that at the weekend, they added an extra 6,000 to their regular fans for that what they've got this season. And if they do go up, if they get even half of that to buy a season ticket for League One next year at a cheaper price, they'll probably triple the revenue of what they're making so far.
Yeah, Zach, you come in next, and then I want to read some comments out from people.
I'm itching there, thank you, mate. So a few bits. So to your argument, Steve, about what's the difference between Charlton and Huddersfield, I'll tell you one fact: 29k average salary in Huddersfield, 53k in London. Done. Argument
it's not my argument, but yeah.
No, I'm just saying that's just period, right? There's just masses of difference, almost double the wages in London is what we get in Huddersfield, so it's completely incomparable. Okay. Kane mentioned the point about Bradford, the timing around the ticket office, the ticket offer. Going back to my point of supply and demand, you ride the wave, right? When the demand is high, you increase the supply and make it affordable for people to get into the ground. Like you said, they've now got 6 more games at home before the end of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if they're breaking 20k week in, week out, because they saw, I think it was 4-1 yesterday. So
yeah.
Them fans that might have gone to Huddersfield next week that don't have a club yet, 6-7-year-olds, where do they want to go? Well, the dads will take them somewhere they can afford to take them, and somewhere they're seeing a product on the pitch that's worth paying for. The other point was around, the whole financing of the season tickets. So this kind of really ground my gears. So I'm all for trying to find other ways of creating revenue streams. Okay, but I do not believe charging £10 for a physical season ticket for those that don't have a smartphone is the right way to go. So not only are we saying to people your season ticket's gone up by 78%, but if you actually want a season ticket, that's another tenner. I mean, there's old blokes that have sat in the Kilner Bank for 40 years. Right? They don't have a bloody iPhone. Why are we now punishing them, fans, because they don't have an iPhone? So we're saying you either got to buy an iPhone or you just give us another tenner. And it's like, where does that stop? And then 11% to finance, so an extra 11% on top of the 78% increase to then finance your season ticket over 10 months. I mean, how can that be right? It just cannot be right, can it? It can't be. And back to Kane's point around the loss of match day revenue. I try and compare. I try and remove myself from the context of football, because I think we can sometimes get lost in football as just purely a fan product and forgetting that it is a business. It does need to be at times run like a business. But you think about if you book a flight with Ryanair, right? you pay the lowest fare in the markets, say you pay 79 quid, right? But then you're going in and you're adding on a seat and you're adding on a baggage and you're going on and you're buying stuff when you're on the flight and suddenly the revenue stream increases. We need to think about football like that. Get people into the ground and then find ways of adding value and raining more revenue. You can't just go down the naive opinion that we'll just go in, get a flat sum at the beginning of the season and have done with it. Because over time, strategically, we're just going to lose fans. The fans that probably would have come to Huddersfield Town are now going to go find other clubs.
Well,
they will.
We ran a poll on the West Yorkshire Football Show Twitter page over the last sort of 4 hours, asking whether Town fans will be renewing their season tickets as it stands. 31% said yes, so only 31% said yes. 35% said no, definitely not, and that was the highest percentage point. And 34% said that currently they are undecided. So that's quite telling that 34% are still undecided, and only 31% are happy to renew at the prices that are currently. Just want to bring some comments in. Fiona, who commented earlier, thanks very much. £229 for kids in the Riverside. Blue Terrier 19, regular to the show. Does the club realise that upping prices does not guarantee more income? I'll be honest, no, they clearly don't, because we've smashed our argument to bits. We've even got a Sheffield Wednesday fan on tonight. I mean, thanks very much for using your Sunday night to come and watch our show. They say same for us at Wednesday. Ian says Nagel is playing a massive mind game with the fans. I'll be honest, Ian, it's one that he's going to lose. I don't think he can win it, but yeah, he definitely is. Fiona comes in as well, £29 for kids at Barnsley. Yeah, it's a good point. Blue Terrier 19, someone should ask Nagel if he was earning what was an average person, 29k, you said, Zach, in Huddersfield. Would he pay £439 for a season card? And he also says, wonder if the club realise that you can get an adult season ticket at Man City for a price lower than Town. Ian says, more people in the ground, more money for the academy, pubs, eating places, pubs, eating places, etc. And Jed comes in and says, now here's one for you boys. If we did manage to get back up to the Championship, will the Town fans then stump up and pay big, roll of the dice? We'll just get your last view on this, Sue. Obviously, your season tickets are going now. Like I said, the early bird deal. One of the things that we have is we've only got 5 weeks to renew our season tickets. Like I said, one payday, and then you will be asked to pay more on general sale. Lots of fans at Charlton buying tickets at those prices, do you think?
At the moment, yeah. And I think because partly I think it's helped that we've been on such a good run, that positivity of, well, we might actually be in the Championship next season. So that's you look at those prices and actually look at and think that's a bargain. But yeah, I mean, I think it's the same as yourselves. You've got a real core fan base that will come regularly, week in, week out. But I mean, our prices are relative to the salaries that are earned in the area, and I think your price increases are just extortionate. I can see why you're also upset about it. It's just so wrong.
Yeah. Well, really appreciate you joining us on the show tonight, Sue. Thanks very much. You're always a fantastic guest. And of course, good luck for the rest of the season. Obviously not against us, but we always love having you on the show. And thanks very much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, boys. Same for you as well. Not for Saturday, but the rest.
All right, Sue.
Yeah.
Cheers, Sue. Bye-bye.
Steve, I've got one last point on season tickets, because you just read out some stats, and I thought I'll do a quick bit of quick maths for us, right? So based on that poll, right, and based on did you say 16,000 season ticket holders this year?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so 31% of people said they're going to renew, right?
Yeah.
4,964 said they're definitely going to renew, okay?
Yeah.
34% say they're not going to renew.
35%, but yeah, go on with 34%.
34,
Yeah.
that's something that's been done on function. 5,540 people aren't going to renew. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So the increase in revenue from the 31% saying they are going to pay the increase based on the average increase, that would be an extra £639,840. Okay.
Well, yeah.
But the loss of the season ticket holders who were previously paying 250 is a loss of 1.36 million.
My God. All right. Can I just say
which consultants advised him?
Can I just say, boys, right?
Come on here.
I'm thick at maths, right? You two are very clever at maths, right? Zach, you've done some quick maths there on the back of a cigarette packet or your notepad or whatever you've done it on.
And it's a small pool, right? Small proportion of people that listen
yes.
to this.
Yeah, but the small pool tells you a very big fact, right? Those numbers are only going to increase, aren't they? In terms of the weight between people not renewing. So that 3 million?
So we'd gain an extra 639k from the extra £129 a season ticket increase average.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'd lose 1.36 million from those, 5,540 that said they wouldn't renew. Yeah.
I mean, Kane, just react to that.
No pies, no beers, no match day merchandise included in that.
Steve, I don't need to say anything because Zach said it all. You don't need to say anything else. You've got to keep it plain simple. And what numbers Zach's come up with, they're the ones. They're simple, isn't it?
Do you think, do either of you think that the club will rethink this?
No.
Not?
100% not, no. Because if they go back on what they've decided this season, so last season, do you remember there was the noise around them going to go up and they said, look, let's curtail this till next season.
Yeah.
They've now obviously taken a lot of time and I'd imagine spent a lot of money with a consultancy firm who have decided that this is the right fee to be charging for the product and the area in which the club is situated and the average salaries in the area. And they also must believe that the revenue overall will increase, which I fail to see. So I genuinely believe the club will see it as a sign of weakness if they go back on what they said they're going to do. Yeah.
The consultancy firm must be dreaming then, because I don't understand. I don't get how they've thought that the correlation between what people earn around here and that increase in season ticket price is going to get people involved in the football club. I'm not trying to sit here and bash the club because I do believe a price increase was right. I believe 50 quid would have been right, and I actually think 50 quid would have probably overall. We probably wouldn't have lost many fans for 50 quid. I don't think. But we're now saying, okay, the fans that we would have got coming into the club, we're now going to be losing them for the next generation of fans because of a decision that was made by someone in a tie and a suit that's never been to a game of never been to a Huddersfield Town fixture in their lives. Probably sitting in their ivory tower in one of the big four consultancy firms saying this is the right thing. Come down to Huddersfield Town and speak to the fans. The HSA survey was exactly that. It was to get the voice of the fans, and it's just been ignored. Do we think that, what Sue was saying there, that although they have American owners, they have a Charlton fan as chairman, that clearly has had a bit of a difference there because their season tickets have come down. We clearly don't have anybody at the club, do we, that is sort of in conjunction with the fans. I mean, they keep saying that they're listening, but really they're just ignoring, aren't
they? I think right. Okay, so Kevin puts his trust, in a set of individuals, right? And these individuals, Jake Edwards, Mark Cartwright, consultancy firm, etc., are being paid a lot of money to do their jobs. Yeah, don't know what the salaries are, so I don't want to guess, right? But he has to trust the voices around him. Yes, he's the one that's put them in place, absolutely, and he signs off on any final decision. I get that. But there has to be a time where he says, look, this is on the CEO of the football club to make these decisions, okay? Because if he has to make every single decision, I know season ticket prices are a massive one, and I'm sure he was involved from start to finish, but he's not been involved in English football that long. Jake Edwards and Mark Cartwright have been brought up in English football. Yeah, I know they've had times elsewhere, and but they know what the English fan base want. And it just seems like they've completely just missed the temperature check has just been completely missed, or they've read it wrong, or maybe they've seen the consultancy report and can't read simple maths and suggestions. I don't know. But
Spreadsheet's gone wrong. It's been corrupted. Is that what you're trying to say?
It's just sad. It's sad that at this moment in the season we're talking about this when, you know, we just smashed Crawley 5-1, but the whole stuffing was knocked out of the club by that announcement. And I know they couldn't have left it much later, obviously, but
it's timings, though, innit? And I do wonder now whether this had anything to do with Duff going as well.
Got to pay him off, haven't they?
It's another manager to pay off. I mean, what Zach said was right. In 18 months, we've had four permanent managers, and we've sacked them all.
Yeah, the decisions of the managers have been poor, and the fans having to pay for it. And I think Fiona makes another great point. I wonder what the prices of matchday tickets will go up to. I mean, away tickets in the Premier League get capped at £30. A town fans are going to be looking at £40 for a game. £40 for a game in League One.
I mean,
I think so. Based on what it is today. So, am I right in saying the average ticket price on match day is £30? There's some offers in the lower tier behind the goal, but £30, and the average game at the minute's £14, I think. So you'd be saying it would naturally be double the cost of paying us for a season ticket. So you'd be looking at £40, £38 for a game. Watch Huddersfield Town versus Crawley.
and it's £50. It's £50 for a shirt, right? It's £50 for a shirt. I can see that going up to £80 easy. And it's about in the town, in the H Town thing. What is it for food? Something like £8.50 for food, and is it £5 for a beer? £6 for a beer? I mean,
see, I don't mind that, because, in my opinion, because to buy food and a beer at match day, right? Okay, that's a choice. To want to watch your football team that you've grown up loving and supporting is actually a must for a lot of people. It's some people's like mental health stimulus. They get 2 hours a week away from whatever's going on at home to take themselves out at John Smith's and give themselves more worries. But it is a chance to go and switch off. And we're now taking that away from the people that need it the most, because we're pricing them out of the game that they love and the club that they're loving. Honestly, it hurts, mate. Like, it genuinely does hurt. Like, we've had so many chats in our group chat about this, and there's some people in the group like, it's still cheaper than going and watching Halifax Town. But I'm like, but Halifax Town fans have been paying that for 15 years. They get used to it. You live within your means. People are getting a 78% pay rise, aren't they? They're getting 2%. 1-2%.
Not even that at times. If the job's up for whatever it's going through, you know what I mean? It's
and I do want to be a promoter of this regime at Huddersfield Town, because I do believe that they're doing a lot of good. Like, they are trying to do good, but then they just shoot themselves in both feet.
Yeah, I think exactly what Zach says. You want to support the club because they're doing some really, really good stuff, but this is just two steps forward, the sacking of Duff and opening H Town and bringing that kind of stuff in, and a new deal with Castor, but it quickly back 5 steps because of the prices of the season tickets. It really is a strange one. I'm just disappointed more than anything, because as Zach says, there's people who want to go and watch Huddersfield Town because it's their life. It's what people live and die by football, and not everyone agrees with that, but some people do, and you might be taking the livelihood away from some people with these prices.
I think it will be very, very interesting to see what happens in the next 5 weeks for how the sale of season tickets goes. And like Zach says, who knows whether we'll see a change of mind. I wouldn't have thought so. Like you said, Zach, with the fact that they've probably spent a hell of a lot of money on consultancy. Just before we wrap up, there is another topic that is quite important to the football club, if we're being completely honest. And Jed takes this on to us quite nicely. Huddersfield Town seem to be a step closer to buying the John Smith Stadium. It has now been confirmed that the Huddersfield Giants will be moving across West Yorkshire to Halifax to play at the Shea Stadium. With which Ken Davey is trying, or has seemingly completed a deal to buy the Shea Stadium for around about £500,000. in what is a big deal for the Giants. It means that their home games from the 2026 season will be played at the Shea. Obviously, at the moment, they get around about 2,500, 3,000 fans in at Giants games. For many years, there hasn't been a good relationship between Town fans and Giants fans, although, in some quarters there are a lot of people that do go and watch both clubs. Being a rugby league fan myself, although I don't necessarily go watch the Giants, I do really like the fact that the Giants have a home in Huddersfield. Rugby league was born and bred in the town, in the country. In fact, Huddersfield created rugby league in 1895, and really it will be sad to see the professional team that has been there for over 100 years, Kane, as I know that you cover rugby league, as we've said at the start of the podcast, that now won't be playing at in Huddersfield itself. I just wondered what your thoughts were on that and where it might leave things going forward for both the Giants and the football club.
Yeah, great move, because Giants aren't bringing anybody in. In terms of for the Giants, it's a waste of money paying rent and opening stands which have about 1,000 people in it. You're spending money on the lights, you're spending money on security, you're spending money on staff. It's pointless. There's no atmosphere there, and the rugby at the moment for the Giants is absolutely dull, and they're going to struggle to fill the Shea. I mean, I think Ken Davies bought the Shea. He's going to improve the pitch there, which is drastically needed. So that's going to be great news for Halifax Panthers and Halifax Town. Brilliant. And they're going to bring that up to Super League standard for the Panthers, and while the Giants are there for the next couple of years. And then they're going to bring a stadium back to Huddersfield. There's a couple of places where they're thinking, got to agree with the council. So we'll see Huddersfield Giants back in Huddersfield, but it'll be a stadium that's about 10,000 people, maybe 8,000. It'll have quite a fair bit of hospitality. But the thing is with the Giants, what brings in their money is they sell out 30 boxes every season. They sell out 30 boxes, which is pretty good. You're looking at about 300 grand there coming in for your sponsorship. But after that, it's nothing. It's a bit of a waste of time, Giants playing at the John Smiths. And I think it's about time it's happened. And it's going to be good news for Town, because that means Town have full control of the stadium. And we'll go back to what we've been talking about with the season ticket prices. All the revenue will be Town's. It won't be going to the council-led company that currently has 40%. It won't be going to a little bit to Huddersfield. It won't be going to a little bit to Giants. It'll be all going to Huddersfield Town. And that's what seems even more crazy when you put season ticket prices up. You're going to be owning a stadium soon where all the revenue is yours. But I do think it's about time Giants moved out, because, again, for business side of it, it's just a waste of money on rent every year. They don't fill it. There's no atmosphere there. It's way too big for them. It's a fantastic rugby league ground for an international, but for a Super League club that is struggling, and I don't see them winning more than 4 games this year, to be playing there it's just not right.
Zach, your thoughts on it? I mean, it's a massive move. Stadium was built in 1995. It's always had that percentage difference, as Kane's laid out. This will be the first time, if the deal is completed between Huddersfield Town and the council, that one party will own the stadium. It obviously does affect things at Halifax Town. Obviously, we're not here to debate that, but that's an interesting point at the moment. The fact that they're going for promotion to hopefully League Two. Apparently you can't be inducted into the EFL if you have more than two teams playing at your ground. So only have one club do that before in Newport, where they had 2 rugby union teams playing at their stadium. So it kind of affects them. It affects sort of a lot of parties, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I'm not going to start saying I'm a rugby league expert, because I'm absolutely not. I think for me, I'm thinking about Halifax Town as a club. I sometimes nip down there. They used to do an offer. If you're a season ticket holder at Huddersfield or Leeds or Bradford, you could go pay a tenner. And they've removed that, actually, so I've not been in a while. But I'd heard somewhere as well that they were looking at laying a hybrid pitch, and that potentially also might not be up to the standard of the Football League. So there might be some implications that come out of this further down the line, and I do hope from the bottom of my heart it doesn't affect Halifax Town, because they've been fighting to get into League Two for well over 7 or 8 years. Seem to get to the playoffs each year and don't quite make it. But I'd like to see them back in the Football League, if I'm being honest. And I hope the decision of the stadium sale doesn't impact that. With regards to Kane's point about Giants coming back to Huddersfield, obviously looking at building a 10 to 8,000 seater stadium might be the right size for us. If I'm being honest, by the time they come back in 5 years' time, it might be a race to the bottom. We might be asking to move in with them. But I don't have much of an opinion, to be honest, Stephen. I do normally have an opinion about a lot of things, but if it means that match day revenue comes to Huddersfield Town selfishly, that's really all I give.
One of them things on that which you might not know about, in rugby league now, there's a system, a point system, and it goes on your performance, your socials, your finance, your stadium.
Don't get me on this, Kane. After working in it.
Yeah, you've got to own your stadium to get a certain amount of points, which gives you a grading, and you've got to be at the top of this grading to be in the top division.
So it's like a franchise system.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But it's a crap one.
Yeah, Giants didn't get many points because they don't own a stadium in Huddersfield, but the stadium has a lot of things, a lot of aspects to it that gives them a good points. So Ken Davies having to go to Halifax, he has to buy the stadium and own it, and then he has to improve it just for Giants to keep themselves in a good grade rating for next year, which is positive for Halifax Town and for the Panthers because the pitch does need improvement. I think it'll be a hybrid pitch, which most clubs have now, where some of the grass is artificial, but the majority of it is grass, and the drainage system will all be done. It'll probably have underground heating as well, which will be superb for them. The hospitality will be improved. The media will be moved. So it'll actually put Halifax Town in a really good situation in 2 to 3 years' time if they are ready to go up, if they can go up. But for the Giants themselves, I cover the games when I get the opportunity, and they're getting 3,500, and it just looks empty. It just looks dead. It's like, what is the point in them playing there? We talk about the performance of it as well. It's not great, but they will come back to Huddersfield. That's a key. But I think from Huddersfield Town perspective, it's important that Huddersfield get the stadium, and that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm cautious here not to go off into rugby league. So just for my understanding of maybe for listeners as well. So at the moment, I'm looking at the league tables, just having a look before I came on. So Halifax at the top of Championship, League One, and then Giants at the bottom. So they couldn't potentially swap divisions at the end of the season.
Yeah, they could, yeah. Yeah, they could. No, they definitely could.
They could, but currently, in the ratings that they've got from this season, no.
Okay.
No.
Halifax don't have enough.
So my question is, say we fast forward 12 months' time.
Yeah.
What a position to be in if Ken Davies got both of his clubs, who he's ultimately improved the franchise ability of the club, could be against each other to get into the Super League, right? I don't really care about rugby league, but just from an outsider looking in, I'm like, that is a madness.
Basically, Ken, basically, Jack, what it is if Halifax won the championship, Dewsbury did it, a club I worked for, right, for years, yeah. So years ago, Dewsbury won the championship by 20 points, 30 points, right? They were absolutely unbelievable the season that they won it. And what happened was they couldn't go into Super League basically because the ground and the whole setup of the club wasn't available to go into Super League. It's a bit like non-league clubs, you go down non-league, and if the ground isn't as of a certain standard, they don't get inducted. It happened in non-league last season, didn't it, Kane? Who was it?
Well, I remember when Harrogate Town came up and they had to get rid of the 3G pitch.
I know they just laid. Yeah.
But it happened last season to a non-league club, and they couldn't. They basically Gateshead. That's it. They gave up their
10-year lease. They didn't have a 10-year lease.
They gave up the playoff spot, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's all to do with grading. It's a load of. I'll be honest. I never.
Sorry, I didn't want to get into rugby league because I'm sure there's not many fans here that want to listen to egg chasing. So I apologise.
No, but it's just. I don't normally swear on podcasts, but it's an absolutely bullshit system.
Beep.
That the RFL have done for years. Anyway, we'll get off rugby league. I do want to say something though. I think a lot of Town fans some Town fans really don't like the Giants, and we're not here to bash the Giants. What Kane's saying is, I think yes, to get 3,000 in, a lot more people in Huddersfield could support the Giants. That's just across rugby league in general that crowds are poor. So it's not just a Giants problem; it's across rugby league in general. So it's not really a Giants bashing point. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the stadium. I think probably the deal will probably be completed in the summer. I mean, it's taken long enough, to be honest. But there we are. Ian said that he's received a link on the forum for this podcast and he's really enjoying it. Well, thank you very much, Ian. Your first
Keep
time
sharing it,
in.
Ian. Keep sharing it.
You've made some great comments and we really hope you can join us next time. Just to finish then, chaps, Zach, how are you feeling about Town at the moment in general, since you've not been on for a bit?
What a broad question. Wow. So I'm going to stick to on the field, right? Because that's ultimately what we all care about, right? We want to see the results on the pitch, and the rest will sort itself out. We have little say, but for me, seeing that game against Crawley, it just felt like an Huddersfield Town display. Like honestly, maybe I'm getting carried away. I don't know, but I saw something in that team. 4 at the back. I mean, we've all been crying out for that on this podcast probably since the day that Duff walked through the door. Even in the games where we won, we were saying, "Look, we're winning, but we're 17. We're winning games, but we're not great." But what I saw against Crawley was a team that didn't have fear. Okay, and it's important between now and the end of the season that the fear factor is gone and it's put somewhere deep in a hole, dug into a 6-foot grave, and chucked away and forgotten about. Because you look at the remaining fixtures we've got, and actually, we've got a tough set of fixtures, right? Probably the hardest of any team in the top 6. But to caveat that, we've got the best results around the teams, against the teams in the top 10. And we've notoriously struggled against the teams from 15th down. And so there's an opportunity, and we're in a position, right, where we're probably super negative at the minute, but we're 6th. Okay. So I'm trying to not let my emotions take over, because we are in a position here where we can still go up. We absolutely can still go up 100%. And I think what we all need to do as a fan base now, right, is show what Huddersfield are about on and off the pitch. The stands, forget the renewals. That's next year, right? Let's just concentrate on backing the boys for 10, 11 more games. And I do honestly think, as Kane said, with Worthy in charge, we've seen him come and make a difference. Even in the 4 training sessions he had before Crawley, he made a difference. He's had 2 weeks with them. He will make a difference, I can promise you. And for crying out loud, stick to 4-4-2, and I'm buying in, mate. I am all in.
Kane, round us off to finish us off.
Yeah, I just I smiled halfway through that because I saw Jed's comment pop up. Good to see smiling Kane today. It's because I enjoyed the last game. I enjoyed the last game, but that last game against Crawley to commentate on was an absolute joy. It was an absolute joy. It was everything I've been asking for all year on this podcast. It's everything I want to see in an Huddersfield Town team, Huddersfield Town performance. It was on the front foot. It was in the face. It was a decent formation for once. And Jed, that's why I'm smiling, because it looked brilliant. And I think if Town played like that every game for the rest of the season, as Zach said, a great chance of going up. In fact, Town could lose every game for the rest of the season and play like that. I would still have a smile on my face, because at least they're showing something. Because before, I didn't see anything.
Jed's coming over to see you, Ken. He's buying his airline tickets right now.
Don't we go over there?
Hey, if you want to pay for me and Zach to go over there, that'd be much better. And Callum, we'll get Callum over as well. Right, well, it's time to end the podcast, because we all want a little bit of our Sunday evenings. Thank you very much to everybody who's got involved. I mean, the comments are absolutely fantastic. We've had really good discussions tonight. Thank you very much as well to Sue Gallup, who came on from Charlton Live. Really appreciate her time on this Sunday. But as ever, let's see whether Worthy's boys can put another 5-star performance in against the Addicts at the Valley. Kane smiling, Zach smiling. I'm happy too. We just need to dig out some change behind the couch for those season tickets. But we'll see you for another podcast next week after hopefully another win for Town. See you next week, everybody. Bye-bye.